So what we want to do today is be able to take a linear equation and test it to see if it's a function. Okay? And there are two ways to do this. One's called the vertical line test, and you can read the steps here. The other is called the x-coordinate test. Okay? And now as we go through this, I'll refer back to these, and it'll make a little more sense as we try a little bit. So let's dive in right away. So first, we got to make sure we remember how to graph. So if this is our equation, we're going to graph it by making an XY chart. And remember, you get to choose any numbers you want for x, but we've talked about this before in previous lessons. Make it easy. So 0, 1, and 2 are really easy numbers. You're going to substitute a 0. So if you change x into 0, 2 times 0 is 0, minus 1 is negative 1. Then it says change x into 1. 2 times 1 is 2, minus 1 is 1. Then it says change x into 2. 2 times 2 is 4, minus 1 is 3. So I'm going to plot these points. Remember, the first point is 0, negative 1. The second is 1, 1. And the third is 2, 3. Okay? So if I plot these points, 0, 1, walk 0, climb negative 1. So from the origin, walk 0, climb negative 1, put my dot there. Next, start at the origin, walk 1 and climb 1. Next, 2, 3. Start at the origin, walk 2, climb 3. 1, 2, 3. Now, math is all about patterns, so hopefully I have a pattern to get from one dot to another. To get from this dot to this dot, it looks like I climb up 2 and go over to the right 1. If that pattern holds true, pretty good chance I did this right. Climb up 2 and go over 1. It does hold true. So what I like to do is just continue that pattern. Climb 2 and go over 1. And then I'm going to reverse the pattern. Go down 2 and left 1, and down 2 and left 1, and down 2 and left 1, down 2 and left 1, down 2 and left 1. I like to do that because I want to get as many dots on my graph as possible. Should use a straight edge. I just free-handed that. Not very good. So graph each linear equation. I graphed it. Now the second part says, is this thing a function? Well, let's refer back to our function tests. One of them is the vertical line test. To do the vertical line test, first we graph it. That's what I did. Step A, I graphed it. Step B says look for 2 or more points that connect vertically. And remember, vertically is up and down, straight up and down. Well, if I look at this graph that I just made, none of my points are vertical. That means none of my points are stacked above each other, straight above each other. So there's no vertical line there. Whoops. It says in step C, if you can find a vertical line that passes through 2 points on the graph, then the relation is not a function. It fails the VLT, which is the vertical line test. Here's the other way you could check. It's called the x-coordinate test. It says if any of your x values repeat, then the relation is not a function. Well, let's take a look here. Look at my x values. I got 0, 1, and 2, so nothing repeated. So, is this thing a function? Yes, it's a function. You can explain it lots of ways. I like to just say it passed the VLT, the vertical line test. Let's try another one. Letter B here. So again, 2 things we got to do. First, we got to graph it. I'm going to make my XY chart to graph it. Again, I like to pick easy numbers like 0, 1, and 2. If x is a 0, plug in a 0. Negative 3 times 0 is 0 plus 2 is 2. Now it says make x into a 1. Negative 3 times 1 is negative 3 plus 2. That's a negative 1. If x is a 2, negative 3 times 2 is negative 6 plus 2. Negative 6 plus 2 is negative 4. So again, I'm going to graph these. First point is 0, 2. Walk 0, climb 2. Next point, 1 comma negative 1. Walk 1, climb negative 1. And the last point, 2 comma negative 4. Walk 2, climb negative 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, math is all about patterns. Let's see if there's a pattern to get from this dot up to this dot. I climb up 1, 2, 3, and go to the left 1. Climb 1, 2, 3, go to the left 1. That works. Climb 1, 2, 3, go to the left 1. I like to put as many dots on there as possible. Again, grab a straight edge. So the directions had 2 parts. Graph it, and now answer. Is this thing a function? Yes, this is a function. Again, it passed the vertical line test, the VLT, the vertical line test. So this thing is a function. It's a function because there were no two dots that were straight up and down from each other. Like if I had a dot here and a dot here, well, when I connect that, that gives me a vertical line. Well, I don't want a vertical line. If I want it to be a function, I cannot have vertical, straight up and down. Now, sometimes we have special cases. For example, if you look at this equation, x equals 1. When I go to make my xy chart, I always got to read carefully. On these last two that we did, it didn't tell me what x had to be. I could choose x whatever I wanted. But here it says x has to be 1. X equals 1 means x has to be 1. X has to be 1. No matter how many times I put a number in the x column, it has to be 1 according to this. It doesn't tell me what my y value should be, so I'm going to put my easy numbers over there. So it says 1, 0, then 1, 1, then 1, 2, then 1, 3. Let's see, walk 1, climb 0, back to the origin. Walk 1, climb 1, back to the origin. Walk 1, climb 2, and so on and so on. Hey, the pattern here is just keep going up by 1, but don't go to the right or left any. Well, I could reverse that. Just go down. I'm going to get as many dots on here as I can, and when I connect them, let's see, graph the equation. I did that. Is this thing a function? No, it's not a function. It failed the vertical line test. I don't want vertical lines. If I get a vertical line, it's not a function. And right now you might be saying, who cares if it's a function or not? As we go through this chapter, you're going to see the importance of knowing if it's a function or not. Let's try this one. X and y. Let's see, read the equation carefully. It doesn't tell me what x should be, so I'm going to pick easy numbers. But it does say y has to be negative 4. Every time y has to be negative 4. So, walking 0, climb negative 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Walk 1, climb negative 4. Walk 2, climb negative 4. Oh my gosh, the pattern is just to move left and right, but don't go up and down. I have a straight line. So two things. First, graph it. Second, is this thing a function? Yes, it's a function. How do I know it's a function? It passed the vertical line test. Now this confuses people sometimes. They say, well, it's a straight line and it's flat. Flat is okay. That's horizontal. The rule is we can't have vertical, straight up and down. All right, last one in this group. Again, read your equation carefully. It says x has to be 0. X has to be 0. Y, it doesn't tell me what y should be. I'm going to make y 0, 1, and 2. So again, plot our points. 0, 0, 0, 1, and 0, 2. Walk 0, climb 0. Well, that's easy. Next one right here says walk 0, climb 1. Okay. This one says walk 0, climb 2. The pattern is just go straight up. Or reverse it and just go straight down. Connect my dots. Draw arrows on the end. Is this thing a function? No. It failed the VLT, the vertical line test. If you think back to how we started, we also talked about this, the x-coordinate test. It says if any x values repeat. Well, if you look at what we just did here, we had x values that repeated here. And since these x values repeated, it was not a function. Here we had y values that repeated. All these y's repeated. But that's okay, so it is a function. And down here, the x values repeated again. And when the x values repeat, no, this thing is not a function. So, we need to practice a little more. Here's what's different. This time, the coefficient on x is a fraction. Now, if you're good with fractions, feel free to make your x numbers 0, 1, and 2 again. But most of us don't like fractions, so here's my hint to you. Start with 0, and then make your next number whatever the denominator is. In this case, the denominator is 2. And then count up by the denominator. So I'd go 0, 2, and 4. And then when I substitute, a 0 here. I know half of 0 is 0, and 0 minus 2 is negative 2. And then I'm going to substitute in a 2. Half of 2 is 1, and 1 minus 2 is negative 1. And then I'm going to substitute in a 4. Half of 4 is 2, and 2 minus 2 is 0. When I plot those points, 0, negative 2 is here. 2, walk 2, 1, 2, climb negative 1, that's here. Walk 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, climb 0, that's here. Again, find the pattern. The pattern says go up 1 and to the right 2, up 1 and to the right 2, up 1 and to the right 2. Or reverse the pattern. Down 1 and left 2, down 1 and left 2, down 1 and left 2. I can get a few more dots on here and connect them with a straight edge. Is this thing a function? Yes. Past the VLT. Hopefully you are working on these as we go. So again, XY chart. Your coefficient of x is a fraction. So our hint is start with 0 and then count up by the denominator. 3 and 6. Substitute in a 0. 2/3 of 0 is 0, minus 1 is negative 1. Substitute in a 3. 2/3 of 3 is 2. 2 minus 1 is 1. Substitute a 6. 2/3 of 6 is 4. 4 minus 1 is 3. Plot my points. 0, negative 1 is here. 3 and 1 is here. 6 and 3 is here. Again, find a pattern. To get from this dot to this dot, it looks like you climb 1, 2, and go to the right 3. To get from this dot to this dot, climb 2, and go to the right 3. I'm going to reverse the pattern. I'm going to go left 3 and down 2, and left 3 and down 2, and left 3 and down 2, and left 3 and down 2. I now have a straight line. Is this thing a function? Yes. It passed the vertical line test, the VLT. Last one in this group. Same thing, we need an XY chart. The coefficient on x is a fraction, so make it easy on yourself. 0, 2, and 4. Substitute in a 0. Negative a half times 0 is 0 plus 4 is 4. Substitute in a 2. Half of 2 is 1, but this says negative, so I want negative 1 plus 4, which is a 3. Substitute in a 4. Half of 4 is 2, but I want negative here, negative 2 plus 4 is 2. Plot the points. 0, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2. Again, see if you can find a pattern. To get from this dot down to this dot, it looks like you go down 1 and right 2. Down 1 and right 2. The pattern works. I can reverse it. I'm going to go left 2 and up 1 and left 2 and up 1. That gives me a straight line. Is this thing a function? Yes. Passed the VLT. Alright, so function tests. You want to be able to plot points and then know, is this thing a function? And remember, if your coefficient on x is a fraction, you're going to want to make your XY chart counting by the denominator. Good luck to you.